Good Tuesday morning, everyone. Welcome back to Weather on the Go, all your weather coverage. In today's weather forecast, I'll be covering the persistent weather pattern that does continue for the rest of this week through this weekend. And then a major pattern change is in the offing with a heat wave building as we get into next week and into late June, which will shift the storm track further to the north. I know that is music to the Midwest and the Ohio Valley. We'll get into those details. And then tropical weather update. A new tropical system will be developing potentially into the Atlantic. We'll get into those details later on in today's video. But going back here to the weather pattern for today in the foreseeable future through this week, we have an omega block that is occurring across the United States. And what this means is that we have two troughs on either side of the United States and or Canada. And you do see one down here into the desert Southwest, into portions of California, Nevada, and Arizona. And then a much stronger trough up here into eastern Canada and the New England vicinity. But in between, we start to see more ridging and developing with the reds and oranges up here across southern Canada and the northern United States. And parts of this could extend down into the central plains as we go through the day today. And again, this is what an omega blocking pattern is. You have a trough on either side of the country with a very stronger ridge across the middle of the country that does occur across generally the Great Plains or southern Canada with this type of pattern. And that really continues as we go through late this week. This is on Friday, June the 9th, and we still see that stronger trough starting to move a little bit further to the south and west into the mid-Atlantic states by Friday, and also will bring that ridge a little bit further to the west as well into western Canada later this week. And then as we go into Sunday, later on this upcoming weekend on June 11th, we still have that omega blocking pattern with the Great Plains and the Rockies underneath the influence of that ridge, and then a trough across the desert Southwest and across the Midwest, Ohio Valley, and East Coast as we get through later on this weekend. So what this means for temperatures, well, we do have a backdoor cold front moving through the Great Lakes region and the Midwest as we move through the day today. So as a result, temperatures will be much cooler across these areas, especially into the upper Great Lakes and New England vicinity. We're only going to be topping out into the 60s and 70s across those areas. So definitely be sure to enjoy those nice warm temperatures while they last across that region, especially for June standards. But further to the west, underneath the influence of that ridge, you have a lot of sinking air, lots of sunshine heating up the ground. Temperatures will be well into the 80s, if not low 90s out here into Omaha, Des Moines, getting into Kansas City, and all the way southward too to the Dallas-Fort Worth area. We could be seeing those low 90s topping out around 91 there in Dallas, Texas this afternoon. But as we go through late week on Thursday, that backdoor cold front will continue to progress further in toward the Missouri Valley, the Tennessee Valley, and the Southeast. So as such, temperatures will be cooling off in a big way. If you live in the Midwest, the Ohio Valley, the Mid-Atlantic states, a lot of these areas will be into the middle and upper 70s on Thursday, and will push the heat a little bit further to the south and west as well. We'll be into the mid-90s now on Thursday into Dallas, Texas, up there into the Oklahoma City area, Tulsa, all the way up into Wichita. We'll be into the 91 range, and then even into the 90s up there into the Dakotas as well as we go into Thursday. And then we'll start to see more return flow out of the southwest a little bit as we go into this weekend on Saturday, June 10th, with more 80s again returning across the Midwest and the Ohio Valley. Well, any precipitation trends this time around going through the weekend into early next week? This goes from today all the way through Monday, June 12th. And again, persistence is the name of the game. So we have more rainfall across the Rockies, the central and southern plains, and then over here into the Tennessee Valley. Multiple inches of rain where that does occur. Some areas could see 2, 3, if not 4 inches of rain, with the heaviest amounts up here into western Montana Montana, getting into parts of Wyoming, and also into Colorado as well. Some decent rains can be expected there into California, northern Nevada, and southeastern Oregon as well there into the west coast. But unfortunately for the Midwest and Ohio Valley, there will be some rain with a couple frontal boundaries that move through, but they will be fairly progressive. So that means they're going to be moving fairly quickly, and I'm only really expecting about a quarter of an inch and up to an inch of rain for some areas, especially into the Ohio Valley, say southern Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, and Kentucky. Those will be the areas that I expect maybe up to an inch all the way through that Monday, June 12th time frame. Well, if you are new to the channel and have not yet subscribed, press the subscribe button down below. It's free to do, and you get all of these detailed weather breakdowns on southern Canada, the United States, and the tropics on this channel. So be sure to press the subscribe button down below. And also, it's very important to press the like button, the thumbs up button down below the video. It helps to get all of this weather information out to as many people as possible, so I definitely appreciate all the likes as well. But looking at the drought monitor, this was published on Thursday, this past Thursday, and you do see a lot of drought across the central and southern plains. So it's good we're seeing rainfall while we are now across those areas, especially in Nebraska, Kansas, and Oklahoma, and even parts of West Texas, but we do need to start working on the rainfall up here into the Midwest and Ohio Valley and even parts of the Mid-Atlantic, because we are getting more abnormally dry with pockets of moderate and even severe drought starting to develop there in towards central Missouri. And the good news is we are going to start to chip away at that, but unfortunately we have to wait a couple of weeks yet. So this goes all the way through June 19th with moderate drought really taking over the southern Great Lakes and Ohio Valley vicinity. But we have to wait a couple of weeks before we get some of the reprieve of the environment farther to the north. And what I mean by that is as we get toward Father's Day weekend, this is June 13th, right straight through Father's Day weekend through June 19th, we start to see a pattern change here where we have troughs across the west and a little bit more of some average conditions with temperatures in the Great Plains, and then warmer than normal, especially into the southern plains and the southeast. That is the start of a ridge that will build, and that will build late June all the way across the eastern two-thirds of the country. So another heat wave is expected right after Father's Day across the eastern two-thirds of the United States. Cooler weather, relatively speaking, for June standards across portions of Montana, Wyoming, and getting down through portions of the Rockies and the western third of the country. And turning to precipitation trends, what I mean by a reprieve is that we're going to start to see the jet stream lift further to the north across the central plains, at least the lower Midwest and the Ohio Valley during that Father's Day weekend time frame, and all the way through June 19th, we'll start to see slightly above average precipitation up into places like Des Moines, Chicago, getting into Indianapolis, and also the Columbus, Ohio region by that point. But then even as we get beyond that through June 20th and 26th, we even lift that further to the north. So as that ridge begins to build a little bit further north with the heat wave, the northern periphery of those ridges are classic setups for complexes of thunderstorms to develop. Those could develop across the Dakotas, Minnesota, and drop southeast into Iowa, Wisconsin, Illinois, and Indiana during that last week into June. So that will be some great news for areas that need the rainfall really across that region. So I'm glad that we can start to see that pattern change. And look at the total accumulated precipitation middle to late June. So this takes us through Father's Day weekend and all the way through the June 30th time frame. And you do see that a lot of this precipitation will be falling eventually into the upper Midwest, the lower Midwest, the Ohio Valley, and the Mid-Atlantic states. But we also see a fair amount of rainfall still across the Tennessee Valley and the Southeast as well, especially if you live in Tennessee, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, and parts of the Western Carolinas, and even northern Florida as we get through that middle to late June timeframe, and we'll start to dry out a little bit more with that ridge building if you live into Texas, getting into Oklahoma, Colorado, and New Mexico then as we go into the middle and late June timeframe. We also have to look at severe weather because June, it's severe weather season still, and that severe weather season shifts a little bit further to the north as we go later into June. So into next week, a lot of the instability or CAPE, convective available potential energy, this is thunderstorm fuel, it starts to build across the central and southern plains. So I do think going into next week, with the pattern change still trying to take place, we'll have more of the severe weather in those same locales across the Front Range, getting into Kansas down here, Oklahoma, and North Texas. But watch the energy really start to build and push well up here to the north into the Dakotas, Minnesota, Iowa, Wisconsin, and parts of Illinois, and even the western Ohio Valley, getting into late June after Father's Day weekend. This is June 20th through the 26th. That's where we see more of the extreme instability start to develop, and that's the very area I think the second half of June will be reserved for more likely severe weather if you live in the Dakotas, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Iowa, Illinois, east southeastward into places like Indiana, Michigan, Ohio, Kentucky, or West Virginia. Those will be the areas I'll be pinpointing for more likely severe weather, but I do still think it's possible that we see some severe storms in the yellow outlined areas as we go through that June 16th through June 30th timeframe. So that will be an area to watch as we get towards the middle and late portion of June. And we always have to watch as we have a high pressure system, and if it gets anchored enough across the southeast, it could stick around for a while. So the eastern 2/3 of the country could be dominated by a high pressure system or a high pressure ridge, as we call it. And over the top, we have the airflow that is clockwise, so we get to pick up the moisture from the western Gulf or even the eastern Pacific Ocean as well with some of the monsoonal moisture and toss it up and over the ridge. And that's where we could be dealing with a progressive derecho pattern eventually trying to set up as we get especially into late June. So we'll have to keep an eye on that as well. But turning to the tropics, right now it's very quiet across the tropical Atlantic, the Caribbean, and also the Gulf right now. Not a lot of waves of precipitation moving through. We're watching some thunderstorm activity in the Western Caribbean, not really doing too much here for tropical characteristics other than heavy rainfall at the moment. But the National Hurricane Center does give a little bit of a chance of a development area here into the northeastern tropical Atlantic, well away from the United States. It only has a 10% chance over the next 5 to 7 days, but we will keep an eye on this area as we could see our next named system develop over that time frame as we get towards that next week and next weekend time frame. So we have a lot of time between now and then to watch it. But look at the sea surface temperature anomalies closer to home here. The Caribbean is boiling right now, and also parts of the western tropical Atlantic, especially into the Lesser Antilles, the Greater Antilles, those areas, the Bahamas. We are seeing a lot of warmer than normal sea surface temperatures right now. It is a little bit cooler up here with the blue anomalies next to the coast here. So if you live in like Virginia, the Carolinas, and Georgia, those areas along the coastline, pretty cool waters right now, and also down into the northeastern Gulf. But we'll have to see if any system does enter the Caribbean, it would be fair game for strengthening as long as the wind shear is low. So we'll have to keep an eye on that going through late June. But currently, it's looking a-okay across the tropics here. If you live that down here into the Lesser Antilles, the Greater Antilles, or the United States here as well. So definitely some great news there. But we will be watching that system well off into the eastern and northeastern tropical Atlantic over the next 5 to 7 days and give you more updates on that later on this week. Well, if you want additional weather forecast updates in addition to this video, press the description down below and follow me on Twitter at hweather420. I post on there very frequently, so I appreciate that as well. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching today's video this morning. If you liked today's video, press the thumbs up button down below by leaving a like. Leave any comments, questions, and concerns below. I'll get to those later on today. Subscribe to the YouTube channel if you're new, and hit the notification bell to get all of my daily weather forecast updates on this channel. Have a great Tuesday, everybody. A great rest of your week, and I will see you all in the next video.